Okay, here we go. Meiosis in a nutshell. So the biggest thing to keep in mind, meiosis, unlike mitosis, goes through two different phases. So you have to make sure you list prophase and then either one or two. So for the sperm, because that one's the easier one to see, you actually can see most, or at least a couple of them. I'm going to go through that one. For these, I'm just going to name what you actually see. All right, so starting here, this is a spermatogonium, and it is beginning prophase 1 of meiosis. All right, as we go down, so these are all of the lining up going on here. Centrioles are shooting out their mitotic spindles, and this is going to be metaphase 1. All right, down here we have anaphase, so you have separation coming apart, right? So ana separates or apart, so you have the separation coming up on here. There's going to be an anaphase 1. This one here is technically representing telophase 1, but it's also going to shift into the other processes such as prophase 2, metaphase 2, which you kind of see a mixture of here. Here it just skips right into anaphase 2. All right, so here there's going to be telophase 2. Oh, and excuse me, before I forget, at this point, this is not a spermatogonium anymore. This is a spermatocyte, and these become spermatids. Spermatids need to now develop and mature so they can actually swim in the actual cavity of the uterus and such. So they're going to need to develop that flagellum, and they're going to become now what is, a sperm. So here's your sperm. Okay? So now, here, for the female side, we have an oogonium. Alright? So, or actually, the chart here is saying primary oocytes, and I'm just going to stick with that. So that means it's probably just skipping one of the phases already. Alright? So from the oocyte, this is your prophase 1 once again. Here, you can have the lining up. So that should be your metaphase 1. Here now, instead of here where you get an exact, not an exact copy, but a copy nonetheless, you're going to have what's called the polar body developing. So it's going to be the first polar body that starts to develop here. Okay? So at this point, this now is going to start becoming a secondary oocyte, and it's going to develop another polar body. All right? So at this point, once you have another polar body developing, as you see here, you see all these polar bodies. So these are all polar bodies. This is now considered an ootid. On this one here, with the development, so most will agree that this is what's supposed to represent the corpus luteum, although luteum literally means yellow body, corpus luteum. It's greenish yellow, so that's going to be the best representation. This is going to be your ovum. At this point, the finale is representing the sperm and the egg actually joined together. So instead of a haploid, you now have a diploid, which basically means that it has, instead of just 23 each, it's 23 pairs. And so this is going to be the fertilization process, and some will consider this a zygote at this point. Yeah? Any questions so far?
Yeah, what are the phases of all of these?
So let's see. So once again, this is supposed to be prophase, metaphase, anaphase, the separation here. And here, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what this is supposed to represent at this point here. It looks, right, exactly. It looks like it's going through anaphase 2. But the thing is, anaphase 2 isn't really supposed to happen until the egg is actually already fertilized.
So is it like this one where it skips a couple of feet?
Right, this one's very simple in comparison. So this one, all the phases are clear cut. This one, it seems like it's actually just developing another polar body. Because the thing with the female is that they actually don't go through the second phase of meiosis until fertilization actually occurs. They start at prophase, but then that's where they stop. And then if they don't get a fertilization occurring, then they actually never finish the meiosis process, or the second part of the meiosis process. And the egg just gets disintegrated during the menstruation cycle.
Right.
Cool?
So for the practical purposes, like, what would be asked about these three?
So for these three, most likely the polar bodies. So are these primary or secondary polar bodies?
Secondary.
Right, these are secondary polar bodies at this point, whereas this is still a primary. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you right off the bat. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm always honest with you guys.
Okay.
I actually do not know why at that point this is considered secondary, where this is considered primary. All right. So what I do know, though, this is definitely the ovum, corpus luteum. Here's the fertilization process. And then here, everything was a lot more clear-cut. Prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase, and then, like I said, because you kind of see the actual mitotic spindles again, even though it says telophase, I am kind of in the process of saying that this is actually already beginning the second phase. But since that part gets a little bit convoluted, I won't get too crazy on that one. That one will most likely just be, what is this cell called at this point? Which it would be a, does anybody remember?
Spermatid.
Spermatocyte.
Spermatid.
Spermatocyte. Spermatids are actually down here.
Okay.
These are your spermatids here. So these are your spermatids. All right, and then these are your spermatozoa, if you want to get fancy. But sperm is fine. You call these sperm, I'm okay with that.
So is
Okay.
this one telophase?
So this is supposed to be, right, so this is supposed to technically represent the end of telophase and the beginning of your prophase 2. So getting ready for prophase again. But it doesn't really kick into gear unless the fertilization occurs.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.